Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Mashbitz, and today is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing seven rules to overcome procrastination. So hopefully what you get out of this is how to really still get some stuff done and get your things done, even on the days where you don't feel like it. So let's jump right in, and probably you should send this to the biggest procrastinator that you know. So 7 rules for overcoming procrastination. Rule number 1, the 5-minute rule. The hardest part of a task is getting started. We know that. The hardest part is just getting to the finish line getting to the starting line, and then getting going, right? So try this. This is the 5-minute rule. Try this. 1, set a timer for 5 minutes. 2, work on the task you've put off. 3, after 5 minutes, you can stop if you want. 90% of the time, the momentum of starting is enough to keep you going. So really, the most important concept here that we're going to talk about throughout all of these 7 rules is you just have to get going, even when you don't feel like it. That's where your willpower and your discipline can be employed to help you get going, right? Because discipline is this idea that we have the discipline to do the things we know we need to, even when we don't feel like it. And we're using our willpower to allow ourselves to employ our discipline in those really tough moments, not relying on motivation, but relying on a set of tools and practices and protocols that get us going. And another part of overcoming procrastination is implementing algorithms into your life. If this, then what? If this, then what? If I wake up, I meditate. If I go to the bathroom, then I do a push-up. Like whatever it is, those are just 2 very random things. But if we want to do our most important tasks first and get to that starting line, then we can implement these algorithms, these if this then what statements. So our life runs on a rhythm, and we're not relying either on motivation or on discipline to get us going and get us doing the things that we know we're supposed to do, or getting the things done that we know are going to move the needle forward on whatever we're trying to achieve in life. So again, number 1 was the 5-minute rule. Right? The hardest part of any task is getting started. So get to that starting line and find something that's just going to get you going. 90% of the time, the momentum of starting is getting enough to keep you going to the next thing. Number 2, set limits on learning time. So here's how you think about growth, right? You learn, apply, learn, apply, learn, apply. It's about action. Procrastination is learning, always learning. Excessive learning becomes procrastination. Being busy is a sign of procrastination. Just always learning is a sign of procrastination because you're not actually applying the material. It's all about action. I've talked about this before. Awareness, acceptance, action. The most important part of anything is always going to be action. Action, action, action. Thinking about doing the thing is not doing the thing. Learning about doing the thing is not doing the thing. Only doing the thing is doing the thing. So that means action, action, action. You have to go for it. You have to get to the starting line, and you have to move forward. Doesn't matter how far you move forward. Doesn't matter how many steps you take forward, but you have to apply the material that you're learning. So for each hour of studying, spend an hour applying. Remember, the growth strategy is learn, apply, review, execute, review, iterate, execute, right? It's all part of this endless evolving process that we can use to try and become the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. So that's number 2, is set limits on your learning time. That's another rule to overcome procrastination. Number 3 in our 7 rules is action leads to motivation. Feelings follow behavior. Action leads to motivation, and feelings follow behavior. Many people think it goes like this: motivation to action. Now, sometimes it does, right? Sometimes you're just hella motivated, boom, and it drives you to get into action, whether that's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. Sometimes, yes, that leads us into action. We want to be intrinsically motivated more often than not, but I'm not saying never to be extrinsically motivated. There are times in our life where that is very important because it lights a fire in our ass and gets us moving in the direction we need to go. And then ultimately we switch to have majority of our motivation come intrinsically, just love doing the thing. And that potentially leads to action. But in reality, or majority of the time, it's more like this: small action, motivation, more action. Feelings follow behavior. right? Here's the thing that I tell my players all the time when it comes to their confidence, and it has a relation to what we're talking about here. You may not always feel confident, but you can always behave confidently. What does that mean in relationship to baseball? Well, last night in the game, I went 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts. So walking in today's baseball game, I'm not going to feel confident. Now I'm going to go through my same process, my same routines, because that's what's going to get me into the mind frame of behaving, because I'm behaving confidently. I'm behaving like a baseball player who is doing the absolute best he can to stick to his process and focus on his routines and create the systems around him, regardless of how the results go. But how do I behave more confidently? My body language, my breath, and my self-talk. Those are behaviors, and those behaviors can lead to feelings. Okay, so feelings follow behaviors. Same with motivation. You want to get motivated? Get started, right? Go back to the first one, which was the 5-minute rule. Do anything, your most important task, something that you've just been putting off for a long time, something that's really hard or really challenging, or you just haven't done it, set a 5-minute timer, do it. 90% of the time, you're going to go past 5 minutes. You're going to get bonus reps in. You're going to start to feel momentum and feel motivated. So again, it's about getting to that starting line and trying to create that one action that's going to move you forward, that's going to do the thing. And then that small action creates motivation, which creates more action. As you can see, the underlying principle of all of this is action, is getting going. That's number 3. Action leads to motivation, and also importantly, feelings follow behaviors. Because you may not always feel confident, but you can behave confidently. Because the things we do have control over are our behaviors, our actions, our choices. And that leads to body language, breath, self-talk, and then feelings follow behaviors. Feelings follow behaviors, and then action leads to motivation. Here we go. Number 4. This is another minute rule. This is the 2-minute rule. This is number 4 of 7, and it's the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Do not hold off. If it takes less than 2 minutes, boom, get it done. You can make that, as I stated earlier in this episode, an algorithm. If this, then what? If a task takes less than 2 minutes, then I'm going to do it. So we do that so many times that our brains just starts to realize that if it takes less than 2 minutes, then I do it. That's implementing systems into your life to reduce cognitive load, to reduce the choices you have to make, to know that, okay, if a task is less than 2 minutes, boom, I'm just going to do it now. That's an if-then statement. If a task is less than 2 minutes, then I will do it immediately. That's an algorithm. That's a rhythm to your life. That's a choice you don't have to make because you place that system into your life. So don't let some mundane task gnaw away at the back of your mind for weeks and weeks and weeks and creating anxiety. Oh my God, I still have to get this thing done. Holy shit, I haven't got it. And then it just spirals into more and more different things. And then you don't have clarity of mind. You're not making the right choices based on this one thing that's just been gnawing away at your mind and your focus and your clarity and your attention. Okay? So if we can get it done in less than 2 minutes, let's get it done. Drink of water for those just listening. So again, procrastination, right? We can overcome procrastination. I've just given you 4 rules to help overcome procrastination with a little bit of tools mixed in there, specifically like this one about algorithms. I think that's a really powerful one. So think about, maybe your top 10 algorithms that you want to create in your life of if this, then what statements to help your life run a little bit more rhythmically under a little bit more systems so you have less choices to make so you can put your full energy and focus to what's most important to you or the task and priority that's most important to you, whether that's your work, being a mom, being a student, being an athlete, whatever it is. Here we go. Next one is number 5. Eat the frog. Eat the frog. Do the hardest task of the day first. Get that weight off. The rest of the day will seem easy in comparison. This is why a lot of people work out first thing in the morning. This is why a lot of people have a morning routine. Okay, but for me, at least, for me personally, my calendar is my best friend. My calendar is my best friend. I put everything into my calendar. I write a lot of things down. I'm still a bit old school in terms of my scheduling. I don't have a lot of fancy apps or anything like that, but I put everything in my Google Calendar. It syncs up with every device I have, and then I write down every Sunday what I'm going to do throughout the week on each day, and the tasks I need to get done on the most important tasks I need to get done for each day. So I know exactly what I'm doing when I wake up, based on my work schedule, based on some of the clients that I have to see, the podcasts that I have to record, the travel that I might be doing. Based on all of that, I get it done on a Sunday to plan my week, so there's no surprises, there's nothing like that. Now, sometimes wrenches get thrown into plans, things happen, things get canceled, things get moved around, sure, of course, and we got to be able to adapt. That's why I have a company that's called Champions Adjust, because I'm able to adjust through those things. But for the most part, I have my scheduled out days. What are my most important tasks? This is what I'm working on today. This is what I need to get done today. Here's where I'm recording, get the intros and outros. Let's do some editing, make sure we have this posted, make sure this is clear, this is cleaned up, talk to people on my team, get with my editor. All that sorts of stuff is dialed out on Sunday. So when I wake up Monday morning, boom, we're right to work. We're eating the frog. We're doing the hardest tasks first each day, getting it done, and making sure that the rest of the day is smooth. And that if anything happens, anything catastrophic, anything just, there's a U-turn, there's a left turn, there's something that unexpected, I'm able to handle that because I know when and where I'm getting most of my stuff done. And then there's allotted free space in there for whatever might be going on in my life. And so I think that's a really important thing to do, is that use your schedule, and then put in, when you're going to work out, when you're going to rest, when you're going to hang out with friends, because all of that stuff is an extremely paramount and important part of being the best version of yourself and greatest service to the world. I've talked about this a lot, but there's two things that Harvard cited that will lead to the good life based on their 85-year study of happiness. And it's quality health and great relationships. So not only are we just working, yes, we need to work, of course, and we need to put in the work and the effort to achieve and actualize our potential. Great. But we also need to focus on our health. Eating well, moving well, sleeping well, thinking well. Great. Dial that in. But also, just as importantly, we need to be focusing on our relationships and nurturing those and creating honest, genuine, powerful relationships. We have communities of support. We have people to lean on and who want to lean on us. And we can do fun, great things and build memories and relationships with the people around us. So that's also part of, those things that I put in my calendar. So it's not just work. Yes, I love working and I'm very passionate about what I do. And I don't have a ton of hobbies outside of working. But one thing I do love to do is I love to hang out with my people, and I love to be around my people and nurture those relationships and go on trips with them and plan stuff and have something to look forward to in the future like that, or have a dinner or a guy's night out or whatever the case may be. But that also needs to go on your calendar. And so when I talk about eating the frog, doing that hardest task first, let's also put in the stuff that's going to behoove us in the long run of having a great quality of life. So that's extremely important as well. So that was number 5, eat the frog. We got 2 more. 6, remove digital clutter. Being surrounded by digital distractions gives you more excuses to procrastinate. That's a pretty obvious one, but one we all need to be reminded of all the time. Here's a good focus toolkit, right? 1, phone in airplane mode. 2, cold turkey web blocker on. Cold turkey is just a web blocker that you can use. You can use sort of whatever one you want, but put a web blocker on so you can't aimlessly search in different web browsers while you're working, right? Do the thing that you said you were supposed to do. And 3, all open tabs are relevant to my current task, right? So I know what I'm working on and I'm heading in that direction, right? We want to think about this acronym of WIN. What's important now? You should be constantly asking yourself that question. What's important now? Am I dialed in on what's most important now? Am I doing that with all of my energy, right? Because multitasking does not exist. It's really task switching, and there's some emotional and brain residue that's left on each task as you switch, right? So do your most important task, finish it, follow it all the way through, then move on to the next one. That's why there's a to get done list or a to-do list or whatever sort of list you make, or a calendar list or whatever you have going on. That's why your phone is on airplane mode, because you're trying to do a 90-minute work bout before you take a breather, or you do some jumping jacks, or you go outside for a few minutes, right? You're doing a 90-minute work bout. What can we get done in 90 minutes? That's most important to us. What can we follow through on, completely finish, then move on to our next task? That's why we're using a web blocker, such as cold turkey, like I mentioned. And that's why all the tabs are open, are relevant to our current work, whatever that may be. And so that's how we remove some of this digital clutter and get into what Cal Newport calls deep work. So many of us do this lame, shallow work where we're just distracted, we're task switching, we're not going fully in to the thing that we're trying to accomplish. We want to get deep into these work. We want to get deep into our work. We want to create the best work possible. That's what we're trying to do in whatever we're working on. So that's why we're doing the most important task. That's why we're removing this digital clutter. We're trying to get deep, okay? And we're trying to focus on what's important now. And then we're going all in for 90 minutes or whatever work block you have allotted for that stretch of time. And then we take a break. And then we take 15 minutes off. We go walk around. We close our eyes for a second. We do some deep breathing. We walk outside. We sit outside. We grab a quick snack, whatever it is. Then we get back to our most important task. And we're simply always trying to ask ourselves that question, what's important now? Because we know feelings follow behavior. It's about action. It's about doing the thing. It's about doing the thing over and over and over again consistently for the rest of your life. And that's number 6, which is remove digital clutter. And then our last one is remove physical clutter. A cluttered environment equals a cluttered mind. Before you sit down to work, get your surroundings in order. This will allow you to laser focus on the task at hand. Very similar to the digital clutter, remove your physical clutter. There shouldn't be a lot of things going on, right? You want to be able to completely dial in on what's happening and what you're doing, right? In the sports setting, we talk about this a lot, but we say be where your feet are. And that should be the same when you're about to work. Be where your feet are. Be present. Not going to be perfect. The goal is to be present, not perfect. And we want to be where our feet are. And all of that is summarized into what's important now. And so we want to create an environment that allows us to do our absolute best work, that allows us to go as deep as possible on the thing we're trying to accomplish, which we've notified as our most important task or our second most or our third most, depending on how many things we've gotten done throughout the day. But the task you are doing is the most important thing you are doing. Or else if it's not, then we got to figure out what is and go from there to decide what we should actually be working on. Now, I know some of you listening or watching may have a job where someone tells you what to do. Well, do the absolute best job that you can. I did a full episode on how to be a great teammate. And one of the most important keys of being a teammate, which everyone is, whether it's in your family life, your work life, your sport life, is execute and own your role. Execute and own your role to the absolute best of your ability. That's something I learned from Tom Brady when he was at Michigan. Right? He would only get 2 or 3 snaps with the first team when he was a freshman year. But he said, I'm going to make these the absolute best 2 or 3 snaps that I can get. And then it snowballed into more opportunities and more opportunities and more opportunities. And that snowballed into one of his key mindsets, which is be the best at getting better. And that's something that I absolutely love. Be the best at getting better. But in terms of your environment, you want to create the best environment you can to do the best work that you can. So we're trying to remove the digital clutter and we're trying to remove the physical clutter to allow ourselves to get as deep as possible on our most important work and actualize our potential so we can be the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. And I think that's amazing. So those are just seven rules to help you overcome procrastination. So let's quickly just review those. So number 1 was the 5-minute rule, which is basically the hardest part of any task is getting started. So set a timer, work on that task for that 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes, you can stop or not, but 90% of the time, the momentum of starting was enough to keep you going. That's rule number 1. Number 2, set limits on learning time. Remember, it's learn, apply, learn, apply. And then we have number 3, action leads to motivation and feelings follow behaviors. 4, the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Okay, then we have number 5, eat the frog. Do the hardest task of the day first. And then 6, remove digital clutter. And then 7, remove physical clutter. So again, those are the 7 rules for overcoming procrastination. Let me know when you thought. Let me know which ones work best for you. As always, I appreciate your time and attention, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.